First story. TIFU by having a one-girl karaoke marathon for 3 hours. I've F18, finally come home from school for winter break and my family lives in a pretty small apartment. Our unit is connected to several others, with 2 on our right and left. My mother and siblings were off at school and work today, so for the first time since being home, I was alone. I decided this would be a great way to get house chores done and have some me time in peace. I woke up around 8:30 or so and kind of rotted in bed until 10. Around 11 a.m. I decided to get to work and cleaned up our bathroom, kitchen, and took out the trash. Throughout the ordeal could not stop humming to myself. It's a habit that I've had for years and developed from listening to my grandma hum while she cleaned. Eventually, the humming turned into full-on, but quiet, singing. And then for whatever fucking reason I thought it'd be a good idea to take a break and pull up one of those instrumental-only karaoke videos on YouTube. For the next hour and a half, I got really into singing one specific song, the title I will not share because I'm still deeply embarrassed. The more I practiced, the more I wanted to get better and the more fun I had. In the company of my 2 cats, I danced around our living room feeling like a pop star on her biggest world tour, pretending my broom was a microphone and flipping my hair like a crazy person. In hindsight, I feel terrible for not considering how loud I was being. My throat started feeling dry and the singing became tiresome, so I eventually returned to the original task at hand. I fed my cats, cleaned their litter box, and swept our outside porch. Once again, I took another break. Using the same song, I grabbed my broom and picked up right where I left off. For another hour or so I lost myself in it and just kept dancing and singing. It felt really awesome to not worry about anyone hearing or watching me. Then, in the middle of singing, I got a knock at the door. The smile dropped from my face immediately and I quickly paused the instrumental blasting from my laptop that I had propped up on our couch. As soon as I opened the door I was met with a very agitated woman who looked slightly older than me, maybe early 20s. I want to say she was kind about it, but she wasn't. I don't blame her at all given how long I had been going for. The aggression was 100% warranted. She immediately asked me to be quiet and explained that her room was next to our living room. She said I had been very loud and told me flat out that I needed to keep it down. I apologized about 1,000,000 times before I finally closed the door. As soon as I was alone again, the silence felt suffocating and my face felt so hot I thought my skin would melt off. I wished nothing more than to pack up all my stuff and skip town until my next semester starts. I haven't gotten up from our couch since that interaction. I hope my neighbor is taking a restful nap now or blasting music she likes. I'm tempted to write an apology note and leave it at her door with chocolates or something. This is the most guilty and most embarrassed I've ever felt in my life. I guess I've gotten so used to dorm life that it didn't really occur to me that it'd be a problem here. While I'm definitely not singing and dancing around at school, I usually play my music pretty loud when I'm getting ready or studying. My roommates do the same as well. It's also not uncommon to hear laughing or loud banging coming from our upstairs neighbors or from people in the halls. It makes me so upset that I'd let myself become so inconsiderate. Second story. I've made a terrible mistake and learned a valuable lesson. Allow me to walk you through the last 3 days of hell. My housemate went on holiday Tuesday morning, leaving me alone for the week. I don't often get time alone, so I planned my time around working a little each day, then playing games for the rest of the day. About 12 p.m. and several joints, I was getting hungry and had an amazing idea. I was gonna make a massive homemade lasagna and eat it over the course of the week. At this point, I had no idea what it would do to my body, and if future me could talk to the me from Tuesday, I would have warned him. Day 1, Tuesday morning. So I get all the stuff and spend an hour or so making a massive 7-layer lasagna with nearly a whole block of cheese, several tins of tomatoes and a layer of applesauce in the middle to give it a sweet tang. It was enough to feed 10 people easily. It smelt so good. Tuesday lunchtime. Portion 1. I fried some chips/fries and garlic bread and sat down to eat. It was amazing. I was so thrilled it turned out great. Tuesday's evening. Portion 2. Still just as delicious, even better maybe after letting it sit for a few hours. Nothing brewing in my body yet, it was the calm before the storm. Tuesday midnight. Portion 3. I believe this was my first mistake. I had been smoking a few joints and watching AVGN on YouTube, and all of a sudden I remember that I made a massive lasagna. I tried to resist, but my stoner brain only lasted about 5 minutes before I had more and cooked some midnight garlic bread to go with it. It still tasted good. After eating, I noticed I was starting to get acid relax. I took an lansoprazole and tried to sleep. Wednesday morning. Portion 4. I woke up and my stomach was grumbling, so I went and plated up another helping of lasagna. It tasted okay, not as delicious as my previous 3 helpings, but I put that down to it being early and I had just woken up. It's at this point my stomach acid kicked up again and I needed a shit really badly. I ran to the toilet and had the runniest shit I'd had in a long time. It was almost painful. Now at this point you would normally go, maybe I should lay off the lasagna for a bit, but it never occurred to me at the time that 4 meals of lasagna could produce such bad bowls. I felt better after so quickly forgot about it. Wednesday lunchtime. Portion 5. I know it might seem crazy, but at about 2 p.m. I was hungry. I had work to get on with, and didn't have the time to cook anything and nothing to grab quickly except lasagna. So back I went. At this point, half the lasagna is gone and half remains. This time the lasagna didn't taste that great. But I ate it cause I needed to have something to give some energy. I realized at the point that my stomach felt weird, like painful and uncomfortable. I made myself some coffee and expected a poo, but nothing came. Just a horrible feeling something wasn't right. Wednesday evening. Portion 6. The final portion. After finishing work, I looked at the remaining lasagna. I know, I thought, maybe it's cause I've had no salad or vegetables with it. That will make it taste better and give me something to sort my stomach out. So I made some salad, more garlic bread, and the final portion. I knew immediately after eating it I had made a terrible mistake. My bowels started aching and making noises. I ran to the toilet, and as my arse hit the seat, a volcano of red-hot shit erupted from my anus. It was so painful, my arse was on fire. Some of the shit came out so violently that it somehow shot upwards, pebble dashing to toilet lid behind me. I don't even know how that's possible. Maybe shit collided with other bits of shit in motion and exploded. Either way, it was the worst toilet experience of my life. Then came the smell. It was delayed almost, like I was in so much pain the universe said, let's give him a minute before we hit him with the smell. It was like acid. This putrid gas almost instantly made me feel sick. I wanted to run out of the toilet and seek fresh air, but the shit was still exploding out of me. I had no choice but to hold my nose and breath through my mouth, which was horrible. All I thought was, I'm getting this acidic shit smell in my mouth. After what seemed like 5 minutes of lava bursting out of me, it stopped, but at what cost? My butthole was still on fire. It's like someone was holding a lighter to my anus. The smell was so bad I had to wipe quickly and escape this hell I had created, but my anus hurt so much every wipe was like dragging sandpaper over it. I winced with every wipe and was almost in tears, and it was so messy it took a lot of wiping. I stumbled put of the toilet, like a cowboy who's been on his horse for days. I couldn't sit down. All I could do was lie on my side in bed and try to get to sleep. Thursday morning. I woke up and I could instantly feel my anus burning. Before I'd even registered I was awake. What's worse is that I needed another shit. I was terrified at this point. After yesterday I had toilet trauma. I knew there was still a portion of 2 inside me and it wasn't gonna be good. It went just how you expect. It was another foul-smelling liquid shit that each strain felt like a knife in my anus. I held onto the towel rail and forced as much out as I could each push. I figured if I can get it all done quickly it wouldn't be so bad. It kinda worked, but I think the damage was done at this point, so I painfully cleaned myself and waddled to my desk and worked standing up for the rest of the day. Thursday, lunchtime. The constant pain subsided, but I still had bad gas and every fart was agony. The smell was just as bad though. Something was still rotting inside me. At least I could sit down to work now. I wasn't hungry and decided to fast for the day. I didn't dare put more food in me. Thursday evening. As I type this, I'm lying in bed, on my side. I can feel the last of the lasagna on its way, and I'm dreading going through this, even if it's one last time. My anus still burns when I fart, and that is happening often. It's freezing cold, but I need the window open to let the smell of my approaching shit out. There's a lesson to be learned here. Don't under any circumstances eat nothing but lasagna and garlic bread for every meal for 2 days. Nothing good can come from it. Asterisk TLDR, I ate nothing but lasagna for every meal for 2 days, and now my anus is on fire constantly and I smell like a rotten skunk. Asterisk. Edit. Clearly my fuck-up was leaving it out for 2 days. I appreciate all the concern. As for the applesauce, it wasn't a thick layer, I just spread some out on a layer of pasta. When it cooks, the moisture in it evaporates and you just left with the sugar really. I like sweet and savory. At least it united a portion of Reddit in food safety rules and a universal disgust for applesauce in lasagna. Thanks for the helpful advice and making me laugh a lot. Edit 2. Thank you for the awards. I appreciate the downvotes as well. Good to let others know it's never a good idea to leave a family-sized lasagna out on the side for 2 days. Sorry for the spelling and grammar issues. I could go back and correct them, but I feel it would be disingenuous. Third story. Alright, buckle up because this is probably the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. It all started last weekend when I decided to spend some time outside after working from home for 3 weeks straight. I went to the park near my house, armed with a loaf of bread to feed the ducks. Yes, I now know you're not supposed to feed ducks bread. Let me ruin their digestive systems in peace. Anyway, I tossed a few crumbs into the pond, and before I knew it, I was surrounded by ducks. Like, an unnatural amount of ducks. They weren't just eating the bread, they were staring at me. Intensely. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. Then, one particularly bold duck waddled up to me, tilted its head, and quacked 3 times in what I swear was a deliberate rhythm. So naturally, I did the only logical thing and quacked back. This is where things went south. The moment I quacked, every single duck in the park went silent. No quacks, no splashes, no rustling feathers. Just dead silence. Then, as if on cue, they all started waddling toward me. Slowly. I panicked and threw the rest of the bread to distract them, but it didn't work. They ignored it completely and just kept coming. I backed up and accidentally tripped over a rock, landing flat on my back. And that's when the big one, this massive duck that must have been the alpha or something, stood on my chest, stared into my soul, and quacked once. At this point, I was convinced I was going to be pecked to death. But instead, the big duck bowed? Like, it literally lowered its head and bowed. And then all the other ducks followed suit. So now, I guess I'm their leader? I've been back to the park twice since then, and every time, they form a circle around me like some sort of avian cult. My neighbors are starting to notice, and I think the park ranger suspects something because he keeps giving me dirty looks. Fourth story. Okay, so a week or 2 ago I matched with a girl on Hinge. She is in the same town as me, appeared to be my type, similar interests, the whole thing. We chatted on Hinge for a while, and then moved to texting. We had a lot in common, and I found her physically attractive, so I asked her if she wanted to go on a date at a bar/grill in our downtown area of the city we lived in. We made the plans, and I get to the restaurant last night a little early and let her know I was going to grab a table. It was pretty busy and the place didn't do reservations, but told her I'd meet her up front when she got there. She tells me she's walking up, so I let the waiter know and meet her at the front of the restaurant, and a girl who I absolutely did not recognize walks through the door and greets me. After a few seconds I realized it was in fact her, but truthfully probably twice the size of her from the photos. She wasn't stick thin in her pictures, by any means, but probably 100 pounds less than she is now. I believe I did a good job of not looking too shocked and gave her a hug, and we walked back to the table, had dinner, chatted, and I was probably much less chatty than I had been because I was just a bit shocked. I am not someone who has any issues with someone's weight, but I'm a smaller guy, 5 feet 9 inches, 130-ish, and have always found myself attracted to a particular type, which she appeared to have once been, but not any longer. She was cool, and the same person conversationally that I had talked to, but I was not attracted to her physically, and that made me sad, but that's something I have an issue faking. I paid for dinner, walked her to the car, and we went our separate ways. Afterwards, she texts me telling me how wonderful of a night it was and how she can't wait to do it again, to which I took some time to respond to make sure I was respectful and my response was well crafted and not rude in any way, but eventually let her know that I didn't feel a connection and I had a nice evening and would love to be friends. She immediately snaps to, "Oh, you're the same as all of the other guys, you love the old me but not the heavy me?" Followed by a few more messages detailing her past experiences and trying to explain that if I liked her when she was smaller, why can't I like her now? I truly felt bad, and didn't want to tear her down or make her feel even less self-confident, but reiterated that I would be happy to continue to be friends and talk, but I couldn't see the romantic angle working. She wasn't a fan of that angle, and said she was going to block me, to which I just didn't respond. So today comes around, and for background, I leave my personal phone at the house often if I have a busy workday, and I come home from the office to my friends sending me screenshots. Apparently, this girl had some mutual friends of mine, and she had posted on her Instagram story photos of my Hinge warning her followers to stay away from this guy, he's a puss yada yada yada. I have Instagram, but usually don't have it installed unless I'm painfully bored, so I never saw it, but re-downloaded it to see if the posts were real. Turns out, she found me on Instagram and blocked me, but my roommate showed me on his phone that the posts were indeed there. I had a few people reach out and ask me about it, but I still feel bad and have been confused about the situation all afternoon and wondered if I could have handled it better. She clearly had self-confidence issues, given all or her Hinge photos ended up being quite old, and I hate to think I contributed to making that worse. That said, I feel her response has been extremely out of proportion, as I still paid for dinner, walked her to her car, and explained my position in what I thought was a thoughtful way. Anyway, I think that's enough online dating for me for a while. Fifth story. I, 28M, am a kissless virgin. No hand-holding, no hugs that lasted longer than a couple seconds, nothing. I've spent my entire adult life either too shy or too awkward to pursue anything resembling romance. Though, I've been dating this absolutely stunning woman, 26F, for the past 2 months. She's sweet, funny, and way too good for me. Like, she's dating down into the Earth's crust levels of too good for me, and I love her. I don't know why she would want me in the first place, but I definitely fumbled it now. Last night, we were at her place, having what I thought was a casual movie night. But then the vibe shifted. She cuddled up to me, was laughing a little harder at my terrible jokes, and then, it happened. She asked me if I wanted a kiss, and I nodded. She leaned in then, and did it. My first ever kiss. My brain went into complete meltdown mode. She kept kissing me, and even got on my lap. After a minute or two of kissing like this, she stroked the hair on the back of my head, and that did it for me. It was embarrassing. It wasn't subtle, either. No, maybe she didn't notice. She probably felt it since she was straddling my lap. There was absolutely no hiding it. She froze mid-kiss and I felt her kinda smile. She was probably about to laugh at me. I panicked. I stammered something incomprehensible, grabbed my jacket, and bolted. I spent the rest of the night lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering why I was born. She actually texted me, probably making fun of me or saying that she doesn't want to see me again. I haven't opened it. I can't. I'm so fucking humiliated. What am I supposed to say? Sorry, I finished in my pants because I got overwhelmed by a kiss? I can't even think about it without wanting to disappear into a black hole. I've probably ruined everything, and she's probably laughing about this with her friends now. TLDR, I'm a 28-year-old kissless virgin and I finished during my first kiss. Panicked, ran, and now I'm too scared to open her text or face her ever again. Sixth story. My GF lives in my apartment complex and I met her one day in September while I was out walking my dog. We ended up going on a date that same night and pretty much instantly hit it off and started hanging out with each other almost every day. We would spend whole days together on weekends and we did so many fun things together. I really enjoyed her company and started falling for her. My girlfriend warned me in November that from mid-month to December 15th she would be unavailable. I thought that meant that I wouldn't be able to see her that often. I didn't know that it meant communication from her would become almost non-existent. She stopped texting me the usual "I miss you" or saying "good night handsome." It started going longer between texts. After a half week of this, I talked with her and asked if she was okay, and if we were okay. She explained that we were okay, but she was just incredibly busy and all she really has capacity for is work and sleep, and maybe stopping to eat. But she apologized for making me feel anxious and said she would try. Well, time went on and it got to be 2 weeks since we had spent any time together. I had gotten to see her a few times for maybe 5 minutes in passing. Then my texts and calls started going unanswered. She had told me the last time we were able to speak on the phone that if I ended up getting off early enough on the following Saturday that I could come over for a bit and we could hang out. I called her that night and it rang to voicemail. I walked my dog when I got home, and when I walked by her apartment I saw that all of her lights were off. So when I got home I texted that it looked like she passed out and I hope she got some good sleep. I didn't hear back for 3 full days. It didn't look to me like her car ever moved out of her driveway. I never saw lights on passing by her house. I started to get worried about her because I know she struggles with certain health issues, is super stressed and hates her job. It seems like she suffers from symptoms of depression. So I texted her just saying I wanted to check in on her, and it makes me feel worried when I don't hear back for this long from her. I still didn't hear anything that day. By the following day I was extremely worried about her. I couldn't think about anything else. I reached out to her best friend and asked when the last time that she had heard from her was. She told me it was the prior week. I expressed my worry and said I wanted to give her space, but that I was getting worried and I was thinking about going to check on her. Her friend told me that 4 days is plenty of space and that I should go check on her. I went home on my lunch break and I walked over to her house. My anxiety was in my throat. It was still dark in her house from what I could see. Her blinds were all closed. I knocked on the front door. No answer. I rang the doorbell. No answer. I knocked again a bit harder. No answer. I rang the doorbell again. No answer. I knocked hard enough that I felt like she would be able to hear it from the bedroom. No answer. I had my phone out with her text message up and I start seeing the typing bubble. I am on a fucking client call, stop knocking. I immediately left. I sent a text message saying sorry, I was just really worried about her. I thought more and added a little later on that I realized I went overboard with the knocking and I was really sorry. It went another full day and I didn't hear back. I talked to my father, who said it doesn't seem like she is communicating, treating you very well. I told him I just wanted to talk to her and I had half a mind to go knock on her door now, at night, just to talk with her and let her know what is going on in my mind. But I was worried about looking crazy or ruining things further. He asked me how much would change from how things have been going. At least if I did this and I could talk with her, I would have an answer. So I wrote a text telling her I was going to stop by in 5 minutes to just chat for a bit, and was really important that we talked. I went over and rang her doorbell. No answer. So I went home and wrote a text telling her how much I liked her, and how this whole situation was making me feel. How I was feeling like I was being ignored and being treated less than. How I needed some communication. How a single text every once in a while would go such a long way. I told her this wasn't a "you need to call me tonight or it's over," but I said I needed to hear from her. I woke up the following morning to see she had sent me a long text around 4 a.m. telling me how busy she has been, which I knew. How she has barely had capacity to even get to her desk. That she has been working 14-hour days and just crashing. Telling me that she'd already told me she would be unavailable. She said coming to her door while she was working and banging on it was incredibly uncalled for. She said her car had clearly been moved. She said that me doing that while I knew she would be unavailable and she was at work, she works from home, during work hours is a hard line for her. I didn't know that unavailable meant zero contact or being able to see her at all. But regardless, in one fell swoop I ended my relationship with someone I cared about deeply. All because I couldn't get a grip on my anxiety and be patient. 7th story. I decided it'd be a great idea to go camping in the woods alone. Just me, my tent, and a weekend of solitude to clear my head. No distractions, no noise, just nature. I thought it sounded peaceful. It was not. Everything was fine at first. I found a spot, pitched my tent, after struggling for way too long with the stupid poles, and even got a fire going, which I was way too proud of. By the time the sun started setting, I was feeling pretty good about myself. I had some snacks, a little folding chair, and a nice fire to keep me warm. Then night fell. Oh my God, I was not ready for how dark it gets in the woods. Like, I thought my eyes would adjust, but nope. Every sound, the wind, the leaves, some animal far off, sounded like it was coming straight for me. I kept telling myself, "You're fine, this is just what nature sounds like," but I was holding my flashlight like a sword just in case. Around midnight, I started hearing rustling that sounded way too close to my tent. It wasn't just the wind. This was something moving. My heart was racing, but I convinced myself it was probably a raccoon or something. I stayed still, trying not to make any noise. But the sound just kept getting louder. And then, I swear, I heard what sounded like footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps, circling my tent. At this point, I'm losing it. I'm holding my pocket knife in one hand, shaking so bad I'm probably useless if anything happens. I tried to turn off my flashlight so whoever, or whatever, it was wouldn't see me, but I was too scared to even reach for the button. The footsteps stopped, and there was silence for a few minutes. I was about to convince myself I imagined it when something tapped on the side of my tent. I have never been so close to passing out in my life. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. I just sat there, clutching my knife, waiting to die. Eventually, I heard the footsteps fade into the distance, and I forced myself to peek outside. I couldn't see anything, but I didn't feel safe staying there, so I packed up as fast as I could and booked it back to my car. It was the longest walk of my life, and I was 100% convinced something was following me the whole time. I drove home in the middle of the night, shaking the entire way. I still don't know what, or who, was out there, but I'm never doing this again. Ever. TLDR. Went camping alone to relax, got terrified by what sounded like footsteps outside my tent, and ran for my life. 0 out of 10. Would not recommend. 8th story. I feel so incredibly stupid right now. For context, I used to be a vegan. From 12 to 21. I grew up around people that ate meat, but never learned how to shop for it nor cook it. I'm 22 now and have been eating meat for a little over a year. I've been trying to cook more meat. So far I've gotten pretty good with chicken and fish. But I've never made a ham. The guy I'm seeing headed out tonight for a flight to see his family, so we made a dinner together before he left. I did the shopping before since he was still at work. Now I have no scope of the price of meat. I figured because of it being the day before Thanksgiving things are more expensive. The fact there was only one smallish ham on the shelf, and the bewildered look when I said I was buying the whole thing should have tipped me off. Well, I heated up and basted the ham in the oven and made some stuffing and carrots. It was really good. Like genuinely very, very tasty. Then I called my mom and told her that ham is super expensive. When I told her the price and where I got it, she could not stop laughing. Then I realized I bought an entire deli ham. For $66. I bought lunch meat. F me. TLDR, was a vegan, never bought meat before, only ever seen a ham at the deli and have no clue what it costs. Bought and roasted an entire deli ham. Still pretty tasty though. Not the worst food but kinda embarrassing and expensive. 9th story. So my grandparents, age 78 and 79, have always been really involved in their grandkids' and great-grandkids' lives. My oldest, who's 11, would spend every weekend at their house up until about 2 years ago when my grandfather began to have issues with his health and was going in and out of the nursing home, and my grandmother has been having surgery on her eyes from Graves' disease. My youngest, who turned 4 on Halloween, hasn't gotten to stay with them at all. About 3 weeks ago, my grandmother asked if we could start letting the boys stay at her house because they are getting back in better health. My grandfather is doing a lot better and my grandmother has more or less recovered from her surgeries. My wife and I needed to go do Christmas shopping for the boys for my wife's birthday. That's what she wanted to do. So we needed them to stay somewhere and let them stay at my grandparents'. Well, next day we go to get them and my grandmother's eye is swollen, red, and has turned gray. She said the youngest and her were playing a beanbag toss game and he threw one at her and hit her in the forehead above her eye and that she was fine. Monday rolls around and my mom tells me they had to go to the ER. ER sent them to an eye specialist 2 hours away where she finds out that the beanbag had ruptured her cornea, which lead to a staph infection. She had to get a bunch of injections in her eye to stop the staph from spreading to her brain. Her experience with the injections was not great. If anyone tries to tell you that you can't feel when a needle goes in your eye, they're full of shit. She went back on Thursday for an emergency, because the doctor told her don't go to a local ER if you feel any pain, just come straight here because you'll just freak out everyone in the ER. She had to get another round of injections in her eye. Yesterday she had another follow-up where they gave her another round of injections and told her that she will go back tomorrow and see if the antibiotics will work. If not, she will be losing her eye tomorrow. All because of a beanbag. TLDR. Let my 4 and 11-year-old stay with their great-grandparents for the first time on their request. 4-year-old threw a beanbag at my grandmother, hit her in the eye, now she's possibly going to have it removed. Edit. Just so everyone knows, we all know it was just an accident, crappy accident but still one nonetheless. Great-grandma said she'd rather he didn't know it was from the beanbag if she does lose it. She is upset but just at the situation, not at the 4-year-old. Update edit, updated in the comments but guess I should have. Nan, what we call great-grandma, wanted to say thanks to everyone for the support and light-hearted comments. Although she's a rather tech-savvy 78-year-old, she is not on Reddit so she can't update it herself. Anyway, the doctors had good news. Antibiotics seem to be working and infection seems to be getting better. But we know she isn't going to get vision back in her eye, but she is getting to keep it for now. The eye is not getting removed. Doctors also got to looking into it more and discovered that it seems that the injury wasn't actually an injury, it was an ulcer apparently. They believe it was caused by her most recent surgery. She has had fluid building up behind the eye right after the surgery. So the beanbag incident didn't cause it. It was just what made her notice how bad it was. She also wanted to say that she was pretty sure it hit her more on the eyebrow than actually in the eye. So great news all around today. 10th story. A few hours ago my neighbor sent me a text saying that my garage door has been open for a few days and whether I'd like for them to close it for me. That's strange, I thought. I never leave it open. For context, I'm in a townhouse complex and the closest garage to the main entrance garage shutter. My garage door has a 4-digit combo lock that I just clockwise and anti-clockwise 1 digit every time instead of mixing it all up. Figured 1 4-digit is as good as any other. Went down there and the garage is empty. My heart immediately sank to the floor and stayed there. You hear about these things but just don't expect it to ever happen to you, you know? I only got the car 2 years ago after wanting it for 15 years. Stood there for what felt like an eternity. How could this happen? Why oh why me? Went back up to the house and just sat there for the next 2 hours. Defeated, have only third-party insurance, and had no idea what to do. I WFH and used the car 1-2X/WK. Last time was Tuesday when I went into work and got some groceries on the way back. For all I know, it could have been a whole 5 days since it was stolen. After much chewing over the matter, I decided to call the police to report it stolen, having zero faith of recovery. The report took 10 minutes. They asked a bunch of questions and I answered in a zombie manner, was told they'll do what they can and get back to me. The next few hours was a blur. I browsed Reddit/YT mindlessly to pass time. Then decided to go back down to the garage to see whether the padlock was cut. It wasn't. And it was in the same spot that I'd usually leave it, right by the floor. Hold up? Face with raised eyebrow, if this wasn't a forceful entry, where the fuck is my car? I had retraced my steps time and time over and over again for the past few hours and couldn't figure it out. I went to work and finished quite late and was tired. Went to get groceries, came back home, that's it. Then, a light bulb went off. I had gone and gotten groceries, yes, but I had forgotten something and didn't realize until was almost home, so drove to a tiny community grocer on the way back to grab it there. I go there from time to time, but always on foot, as to drive there takes exponentially longer to do a big loop and cross many more streets. So, after I grabbed the missing item, I just naturally walked back home due to habit, and thought nothing more of it. OMFG. I ran towards the grocer's parking lot immediately. Every single step felt like a million miles away, and I was both striving for pending relief or pending misery. It's usually a 2 minutes walk, though the journey felt like a lifetime. When I finally got there, yup, my baby's sitting right where I left her. Human behaviors are fascinating, aren't they? The second I saw the car from a distance, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, I hope I didn't get a ticket, as if I just erased the past few hours from the mind immediately. Luckily, I did not. Drove it home and locked up, rang the police back telling them sorry, I was a complete moron. They asked a few more questions, and I'm sure I'll get a mention during their lunchtime chat for wasting their day for no reason. Some of the groceries are spoiled after sitting in the sun for the last 5 days. I'll make a trip to replace them later on today, and will make sure I complete the entire shopping list in one trip. 16th story. I, 27F, gave birth to my first child a month ago. My husband and I named her after my late mom and a favorite name of ours for her middle name. My mom died 10 years ago, and using her name was always something I wanted to do. When my half-sister, 24F, first heard the name, she got a little pouty and asked me why I didn't see if she wanted to use the name instead, and she said she had always imagined giving her first daughter my mom's, not her mom name. I told her I had always intended to use my mom's name, and my half-sister said my mom was basically the closest person she ever had to a mom, and how she was always so sweet and accepting of her, and she felt like it could have been a nice way for her to show respect and to show us she appreciated it. She said I didn't need to use it. I said I'm my mom's daughter, so of course I'd get to use it. My half-sister said we were all a family, and I emphasized in response that I was mom's only child. My half-sister said it might be true, but she accepted her into the family as well. And this is where I might be TA, because I told her that was not true. I told her my mom hardly had a thing to do with her. She wanted nothing to do with her, but never felt good about taking out issues on kids, so she tried to be kind when she couldn't avoid her, but she absolutely did not love and accept her, and I told her to get real, thinking the woman who was cheated on would love and accept the child that came from the affair. I told her she shouldn't be trying to imply she had more of a right to my mom's name than I do when she was nothing to my mom and her child wouldn't be either. She left in tears. The background is already maybe clear. But my parents were married and had me. Mom found out Dad cheated on her and got his other woman pregnant and divorced him. She had primary custody of me. My dad ended up with sole custody of my half-sister. My dad made every effort to still be in my life, and he always brought my half-sister when he'd show up to support me. My mom hated it. She never said that to me. But a couple of times I heard her talking to my aunt or my grandma about how much she despised seeing my half-sister there and how she knew it was an awful thing to say, but that my half-sister reaching out for her like she would whenever Dad brought her was tough. I also heard her talk about Dad inviting her to be active in my half-sister's life, and she declined. She said she could suck it up and not be mean to her face, but she did not want to be around her more than she needed to be. Over the years, my half-sister did try to spend more time with my mom. Whether it was packing to come with me when I was going home to Mom, or her rushing out the door when Mom would pick me up so she could try hug and talk to her. My half-sister always made a beeline for Mom when she'd see her. My mom wasn't really that warm to her, but my half-sister always seemed to ignore it. I remember when Mom died and my family and I had a private cremation for Mom, and my half-sister was so upset she couldn't come, and my dad and I stopped speaking after that because he told me I should have made sure my half-sister could be there. He never discouraged my half-sister pining for Mom, even though I know Mom told him she did not want a relationship with my half-sister. Anyway, since my half-sister ran out crying, she has texted me and told me I was cruel and that I didn't need to crush her hope that my mom had loved her and that she'd been wanted by at least one female figure in her life. She said I never wanted to be with her and Dad, and then I never wanted her with me and Mom either. 20th story. /I23F made a post last week about a joke my fiancé, 26M, made at Thanksgiving while drunk. To everyone that hasn't seen my older post. He joked that he got me pregnant to tie me down, and I didn't know what to make of it, so I posted on here to get outside opinions. I didn't want to initially talk to my friends or family about it because they're all quite close to him, and I didn't want to make a mountain out of a molehill and cause drifts in their relationships. Yesterday we had a conversation about where I was at, but he said he couldn't go back to the hotel because they kicked him out for smoking in the room. He stopped smoking while I was pregnant, but he said I was stressing him out, so he had to stay at the apartment. While I was OTP to one of my girls in the bedroom, he came in and took the phone off me and told me to come and eat. While we was eating, he said that he understood what I said and that things need to change for us to move forward. He then proceeded to list all the things I needed to do to make things better. His tone the whole conversation was just making me uneasy. I texted my dad saying that he was making me uncomfortable when he wasn't looking. I went to check on the baby, and when I came back I saw him take my keys out my purse but didn't say anything. He took my silence as agreement to everything he said and went to bed, instead of the couch like we had agreed. Like everything was normal, I stayed in the living room, and my dad, bless him, drove 6 hours to come and get us. My dad got to the apartment around 5 this morning while my fiancé was still sleeping, and we left. Me and my son are at my parents' house now. My fiancé's been blowing up my phone since this morning. I sent a text to him as we were driving off saying he wasn't respecting the fact that I needed space and time to just figure everything out, so he could stay in the apartment and I'll stay at my parents'. We haven't officially broken up or called the wedding off. My parents, who've paid for it, have said that they don't care if I want to call it off, but I feel bad. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who replied to my original post and private messaged me. I didn't think people would care about me. I feel like every option I have is bad. The thought of being a single mom is scary. If my fiancé's behavior gets worse, that would be shit. If we cancel the wedding and cost my parents thousands of dollars, I'll feel guilty. And if we break up altogether, we just got a house together, we're both on the mortgage, our joint accounts, and I've been with him since I was 19. Being without him for good is also scary. 24th story. Lately my 29F boyfriend, 46M, has been on my ass non-stop about trying anal sex. It came to a head last week when he showed me that he'd purchased almost $1,000 worth of sex toys and lingerie for my Christmas present to convince me to give it a try. After making it clear that those things were not what I wanted, nor what should be used to try and persuade me into doing anal, I talked things out with him. My boyfriend agreed to return everything except the toys I wanted, and he bought more, non-anal related, gifts as well. On top of that, to say sorry, he booked us a trip before we went to visit my family for the holidays. I was, and still am, willing to give anal a try, but what's more important to me is knowing that I can trust my partner to do it safely. As much as my boyfriend seems obsessed with the idea, I don't think he actually understands the mechanics of fucking someone's ass. So, on this trip, when we were about to get intimate and he was already touching me down there, I reiterated that I was willing to try anal, but I wanted him actively involved in the process of learning about it first. He was excited and readily agreed. From there, I went to get the toys I'd brought with me for the trip, one of which was a small-ish dildo. I told him my one condition: if he wanted to fuck my ass, he would have to try at least one of the toys himself so he could have a better sense of what he'd be doing to me. I showed him the dildo and how we could do it to him, but I didn't get far before he lost it. He blew up and said I was being manipulative and coercive for dangling anal in his face just to offer something degrading to him in return. He thinks anal is not the same thing for men versus women and that it wouldn't be natural for a straight man to do. Maybe I was the for making this a tit-for-tat exchange and should have considered his feelings first, but honestly, I think him learning first is fair as well. Eta? Next story. I, 22F, have been with my boyfriend, 25M, for about a year and a half. In the beginning, everything was amazing. He was so sweet and we spent a lot of time together. Almost too much time. Honestly, at one point, I felt a bit suffocated, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to hurt his feelings. About 5 months ago, he started a new job. I was so happy for him because his last job was awful, his co-workers were toxic and it made him miserable, literally like he lost his spark in the eyes. At this NE job he made a friend, who I'll call Jeff. Jeff is really into gaming, he still lives with his parents, doesn't go to school and seems to spend all his time playing video games. I think this should be included here. My boyfriend started playing games with him and at first I was happy about it. It gave both of us a bit more personal time, which I thought was healthy for our relationship. But, over time it got out of control. He started spending literally every minute outside of work gaming with Jeff. He stopped asking me about my day, helping me with chores or spending quality time with me. I felt like I just didn't exist anymore, literally. I brought it up once and told him I didn't mind him having a hobby, but he needed to find a balance between gaming and our relationship. Instead of understanding, he accused me of being jealous because I didn't have a hobby of my own, not true by the way, but promised me he'd work on it. Then for a few days everything was great. He spent time with me again and I felt like we were back on track and I was so happy. But not even a week later it all went back to how it was before. He was glued to his games and started ignoring me completely again. He even stopped being intimate with me at one point. I finally hit my breaking point. I packed my bags and went to stay at my mom's. He didn't even notice I was gone until the next morning when he called asking me where I went. I told him that we needed to break up because I just couldn't handle him prioritizing gaming over our relationship. He said I was being dramatic and that I was overreacting. I told him I'd take a few days to think about things, but if we were going to work it out, he'd need to stop spending so much time with Jeff. He doubled down saying that I was just jealous and that he wasn't doing anything wrong. Now I'm stuck at this point. Part of me feels like I did the right thing by leaving, but another part wonders if I'm overreacting like he said. Next story. My dad died when I, 16F, was 6 and my brother was 7. My parents had a lot of issues in their marriage and Dad was our primary parent and Mom hadn't lived with us in a while when Dad died. So when we moved in with her, our paternal grandparents stepped in to help when in reality they sorta took over raising us. We still slept in beds at Mom's house. We still spent some time at Mom's house. But our grandparents would come and get us up in the mornings and we'd go to their house after school until Mom picked us up. Mom would leave us for weekends with them and sometimes a whole week. When I was 9, my mom got married again. She changed overnight. She'd been distant and someone who drank a lot, and she stopped drinking after she met her husband but let him take over. He, for the most part, did try to bond with me and my brother. But he was strict. He had a lot of rules and high expectations, and he was very much, "This is my house, so what I say goes," and this meant some of our artwork got taken down from the house because it included Dad. Either drawings, or we had some photo frames we made around photos of Dad or us and Dad. My stepdad didn't like that. He also had my brother take off Dad's watch because it bothered him that my brother carried Dad with him everywhere. Our relationship with him was really difficult. He largely ended the contact we had with our grandparents until our grandparents took to the courts and were granted visitation rights. But this made my stepdad try to overwhelm us with time with him, and Mom occasionally. He insisted we go to gun shows with him. He insisted we go fishing with him. He dragged us camping. He made us sign up for sports that he could coach. If we said no, he ignored us. He'd ask us if we'd let Dad sign us up for stuff we could do with him, or if we complained when he wanted time with us. We used to say different versions, "But you're not our dad," and he didn't like that. Whenever we went to our grandparents for the visitation, he would try and make us hug him, and we'd often run out before we could be dragged in for one. Mom yelled at us a few times for doing that, and she said it was hurtful to ignore someone who loved us so much. Things were really tense in 2020 because we didn't get to go to our grandparents' house, like at all. But we could Zoom call them, and my stepdad hated it. He felt like we ignored when he was talking to us, but he'd always try to talk to us during the calls. He tried to use that and told Mom to bring our grandparents to court and end their grandparents' rights. Our grandparents got more time because of it. I don't like my stepdad. I wish he and Mom hadn't met, and I wish he ignored us over this forced relationship stuff. That might sound super ungrateful, but it's true. My grandparents are the people I love and respect and appreciate. They have done so much for us, and in a way that wasn't forced. So when a school project came up and we got asked to identify and write about some primary figures in our life and the father figure assignment came, I wrote about my grandpa. I wrote about grandma for mother figure. I wrote about Dad for impactful figure and educational figure. I wrote about a teacher who has been super amazing to me the last 2 years, and she helped me so much. Mom didn't seem to care about the mother figure. But my stepdad was pissed I called my grandpa my father figure over him. He told me I won't let him be that, and he doesn't understand why we can't give him a chance, but we're always so closed off with him and we don't let him in. Next story. This actually happened years ago, but every holiday it plagues me because I am told I'm the jerk for not wanting to be involved with my stepmother to this day over this. Let's call her Jill. Jill is one of those people who have an opinion about everyone and everything and like to boast about the fact that they are so verbal with their opinions about everyone and everything. 4 years ago, my son was 13. We were on a vacation with my parents and my sister's family. My sister lives out of town, so she was asking how my son is doing, what he's into these days, etc., since she does not see her nephew often. My stepmom was sitting in the room with me and my sister at the time. I mentioned that my son has been very active with church and youth group and that the Catholic Church has been prominent in his life. I actually didn't even attend church and am not a religious person. He started going with his lifelong best friend and his family, and I support that because it's important to him. Anyway, my stepmother didn't say anything at the time, but after my husband and went up to bed, started one of her discussions with my sister and my son about how God isn't real, the Bible is fiction, the Catholic Church is a money scam, everyone is a pedophile and a sex offender, etc. She's saying this to my 13-year-old whom I just stated really takes comfort in his faith. I could hear it happening from upstairs, so I came downstairs and told my son it's time for bed, and the next morning we packed up and left early. I let my father know later that day what happened because he was asleep at the time and didn't hear any of it. He and my stepmother believe I am the bad guy here for not respecting other people's views and trying to overprotect my child. Truly, I do respect other people's opinions, and I realize my son is going to face opposition in life, especially because he attends church, which I know is frowned upon. And we are all okay with that. What I'm not okay with is that she waited until I went to bed and personally attacked a child with the information I'd just given her about what's important to him. I really just don't want to be around her, and my son is uncomfortable around her, so we don't come around. I still have a relationship with my father, even though for a year he blamed me and told me I was a terrible person over being upset over this, but I can't seem to stomach her still, and it's definitely put a strain on my relationship with my dad. Am I wrong to think that was inappropriate of her to intentionally say to a child? Edit. I'm not forcing my religion on my son, nor is his friend. His friend has always attended church, and my son asked him if he could go with him, and he enjoyed it and has gone ever since. I'm allowing him to make up his own mind about religion, even though I'm not a churchgoer myself. I've allowed him to go. His friend and his parents are great people, and I appreciate them, including him. Next story. So yeah, this happened earlier today, and I still wanna die. I'm 20F and had to do this big presentation on Zoom for one of my classes. I was already nervous cause public speaking freaks me out, but I had my notes ready and was just trying to get through it. About halfway through, my professor, he's this super serious older guy, stopped me to ask a question. I went to unmute myself, and instead of saying, "Yes, professor," my brain fully glitched and I said, "Yes, daddy." The second it left my mouth, I just froze. The whole class went dead silent. Then someone in the chat was like, "No way," and people started spamming laughing emojis. My professor just stared at me for what felt like forever and was like, let's move on." I tried to play it off and keep talking, but I was so flustered I forgot half my points. People in the chat wouldn't stop. One dude literally renamed himself to Daddy on Zoom. I logged off right after cause I couldn't deal with the shame. Now my group chat is roasting me non-stop. They're sending memes and calling me Daddy Girl, and I'm scared to show up to class next week. I swear I'll never live this down. Next story. I'm late for school. How I slept through the 200 clocks in the bedroom is beyond me. Why do I have so many clocks? I can't remember anything about the night before, and I'm still dressed. Clearly, I just crashed so hard it took some Huey Lewis and the news to wake me up. That shit is tight. I ran downstairs to find my lazy-ass sister and brother already at the breakfast table. I think they were there. Maybe it was just my mom. It's not clear. One of them said that the pickup truck had been damaged. That fat-ass Biff had smashed it up, and was outside trying to explain how it was somehow my dad's fault. Dad just stood there and took it while Biff wrapped his head as usual. That beat-up pickup truck was the key to Jennifer's fine white ass. I was going to get me some on a camping trip this weekend, but not now. So off to school. No wait, I think I went to Doc's house. Did I? I think so. Why would I have gone there before school? Nah, maybe later on. So I'm pretty badass on the skateboard, if I say so myself, and hold on to the back of various cars and buses to get to school. After I make it there, I have to break the bad news to Jennifer, and she's really nice about it. So as I'm talking to Jennifer, this asshole teacher, whose name I can't remember, grabs me by the hair or ear. He calls me McFly, so he can take another pop at my dad when he was at this school. It's all a bit humiliating, and Christ, that's my dad. Uncalled for. In the afternoon I go for auditions for whatever, and who do you think is in the judging panel? Only Huey Lewis from the news. No shit. He played it cool, and nobody else knew who he was. I just went along with it, but what are the odds? I play my heart out, and I'm good. I mean really good. Huey could have used this tune, but it's like he's fucking with me. He's like, "No, it's too loud," or something along those lines. I'm so done with the day, but I remember now. Doc called this morning to tell me do come over after school, I think. So I head over to his place. I mean, that's cool, right? Some old dude inviting a teenager over to his house to hang out in his garage? I'm not quite even sure how this relationship started. When I arrive, Doc shows me this time travel machine. I roll with it, as you would. He sets fire to this mock-up of the town with a car that has to reach 88 miles per hour to travel in time. He's going to demonstrate it tonight, and needs me to tape it. I mean, why not? I'm going to meet up with this old guy at a mall at midnight, and video a demo of his time machine. So at the mall now, and it turns out Doc needs plutonium to run the car. Oh, and he got it from some terrorist group. Did I mention he thinks he's going to travel in time? Yeah. My easy lay this weekend is ruined. Huey Lewis dissed my audition, so why not? Let's do this. I get the video camera on the shoulder, and hit record as Doc is explaining everything. Except this pickup, with a fitted machine gun and terrorist manning it, shows up and shoots Doc. They almost shot me, but the gun jams. I see a chance and leap into the car, flooring it. I scream across the mall parking lot, and then I'm somewhere else. I have no idea where, but the mall is gone. It's a dusty old road, and some old billboard is in the way. I'm still wearing my radioactive suit. Did I mention I had that on? No, I did. The car is now dead as fuck, so I push it behind the billboard for now. I'm completely lost. No idea what drugs the old man slipped me this time. Maybe the same as last night, but this is the craziest trip yet. I walk about until I find an old farmhouse. I knock on the door. Now I remember, none of that shit about pushing my car behind the billboard happened yet. I actually drove into the farmhouse barn and woke up this farm family. So this crazy old man sees me from a distance. I'm still in the radioactive suit, and he fires a round from his shotgun. I run back into the barn, back into the car, and hit the gas. I blast through that wooden barn door like it's plywood, and fly past the old guy and his family. Another shot, but missed yet again. Third time is a charm. Then I did what I said from the paragraph above, but the car really is dead now. Finally it's daylight, so I take off my suit and go walking toward where I think town is. Sure enough, I find town. It's the same town, but it's been dressed up to look like the 50s, and everyone is playing along. When is this shit going to wear off? Anyway, I forgot about the black mayor candidate, and I bump into him when I walk into a diner. I either meet him first, a day later, or my younger dad next. Dad's getting bullied by a younger Biff. Or about to be, so I trip Biff up and piss him off. Next thing I know, he's chasing me around the town center in 50's car while I'm on a makeshift skateboard, don't ask. Biff crashes into a manure truck and he and his buddies are covered in cow shit. Now I'm really disturbed by how much I remember about this movie. I swear, if I go on I could pretty much finish it no problem. I'm going to have to stop here. Next story. Someone suggested this sub in response to a comment I made about a past student. I've been teaching college courses for many moons now. I've had brilliant students. I've had mediocre students. I've had students who made me fear for the gene pool, including one girl who couldn't accept that whales were real. This Kevin, though, was possibly the dumbest individual I have ever met, the type who wouldn't remember to breathe without external prompting. Shortly after the term started, Kevin approached before the start of a class to complain that he'd gone to my office, and I wasn't there. Of course I wasn't, because he hadn't gone during my office hours, which were posted in the hard copy of the syllabus on the course site, and in a so large my blind grandmother could read this, and she's dead font on my office door. I reminded him of my office days and hours and where they were posted. He just nodded and said, okay, in what really did seem like acknowledgement. The next week, he again accosted me, complaining that he'd gone to my office and I wasn't there. I went over my office hours again, now wondering if he was a few squirrels short of a tree. At the end, he nodded sagely, saying, okay. It was not, in fact, okay. This pattern continued for the entire semester. He'd constantly complain that I wasn't there. He was going to my office so late in the evenings that security was called. He was going to my office on Saturdays and Sundays and at 5 in the morning. He'd pound on my office door and call my name, leaving only when others in the building would tell him to get out. He'd then accuse me the next day, every attempt at explanation always ending with that infernal, okay, and still no light on upstairs. It took several weeks, but I finally figured out why this was so difficult for him. I then had to explain to a grown man that teachers don't actually live in their offices. That he was genuinely floored by this still keeps me up at night. And he gets worse. One day, I noticed someone stealing the tires from a car in the parking lot. I called security. It was a rural area, and the police were both in a different town and not very responsive, not knowing that this brilliant Kevin was now part of the security team. He biked over, and I pointed him in the thief's direction. They conversed. After a moment, the thief tossed the tires in his truck and drove away, all while the Kevin happily waved him off. Kevin then informed me that it was all fine, because the thief had permission. I just blinked at him for a moment, briefly wondered if his parents were cousins, and asked how he knew the thief hadn't been lying. Did he get a name for the car's owner? Did he call that person or verify the story in any way? Did he get ID? Kevin's face fell, because of course he hadn't. He then hesitantly asked if he should bike after the thief, who was long gone by then, and I wouldn't have wanted someone this abysmally stupid to go after a criminal anyway. I called the real police, who did precisely nothing, but the thief was caught later, stealing other tires. Kevin was always happy to see me as he biked around in his security uniform. He was nice enough, but I never stopped hoping he wouldn't have children.